This is the Dacia Sandero. Why is it Sandero and not Sandero? Why did it have to start raining right now? Quick intro. This is not my car. This is a car that I rented while my car's getting fixed. But anyway, I thought I'd just quickly talk about it and tell you some good and bad things about the Dacia Sandero. First thing I'd like to talk about is the styling. It actually looks all right for a modern crossover-y thing. It's got elegant lines and avoids the over-the-top bulges and creases that plague modern vehicles. The not so good thing is that it does look rather generic, if I'm honest. It reminds me a lot in terms of its silhouette and stance of the Hyundai Kona, and also the Volkswagen Tarok, the Seat Arona, and of course the Renault Captur, which is no strange thing since they are sort of more or less the same car underneath. A good thing, it does have some nice distinctive features. For example, the headlights and the tail lights. They look nice. The bad thing is, it tries too hard to look like some kind of rugged off-roader, which it definitely isn't. You know, it's got the roof bars, the side cladding, the skid plates, but you know, if it saw about this much of mud, it would get more stuck than a dinosaur in a tar pit. Now at this point, the more nerdy of you are probably already typing into the comments that this is a stepway. That's why it's got extra cladding and skid plates and ride height and roof bars. I know that, but it's not just because it's got some extra trim and it can drive through some slightly deeper puddles that it's suddenly a completely different car. Sandero stepway, normal Sandero, same thing, in my humble opinion. Good thing, it's rather a nice place to be inside. I like the design. I like the front fascia with the cloth on top and the vents that are in the shape of the modern Dacia logo, and it's got the little coloured bits that really brighten up the interior. It's not too cramped. I'm actually rather fine back here, and the seats are rather nice. The not so good thing is that it's sort of more cramped than I would have expected when looking at it from the outside. And although I do like the seats, the headrests, especially in the front, they're good, and the bolstering, they're nice as well. These seats are a bit hard, and also the front seats aren't that adjustable. I suppose it's a consequence of being pampered from having my C5, but anyway, I think if I went on a long journey in this car, it would start to make my back ache. Good thing, the controls in general, very well laid out. Cruise control buttons on the steering wheel, they're very logical, easy to use. You've got this area dedicated to the temperature control in the car. No argument from me. Got a bank of switches here with some various functions, and they all fall nicely to hand. I like the fact also that it's got an analog binnacle and avoided the temptation of having a digital one. I don't like digital displays. The bad thing of the controls is this side of the wheel is a bit weird. I mean, it's got this button here that scrolls between those screens, and there are 9 of them. Compared to my C5, I've got 4 screens, one of which is blank. That's if you don't want the information to be pissing you off. And you've got 3 screens that have all the information you need. Much simpler, cleverer, better in every way. I also don't like the fact that this has one of those controls where you push forward to put the high beams into place. That sucks. That is not good. That is not natural to have to push forward to stick it in place. No, it's not ergonomical. And it seems to be a feature of modern motoring. All cars seem to adopt this. That is not good. One thing that is actually very good about this car, surprisingly so, for a modern car and a modern feature, is the touchscreen. Let me start it up for you. It's a very simple system. You can switch it off here and it will show this screen with the time, the temperature and the date. No argument from me, very simple. Switch it on, you've got this menu. It's a very simple menu with large buttons that are easy to hit when you're on the move, and it's got all the very simplest functions you need. The settings are down here, and this moon here is a button that turns off the screen if it's night and you don't want the glare to be in your eyes. It's got 5 shortcuts here: switch on, switch off, volume up, volume down, home and settings. And every single menu is very clear and easy to use. I don't have my phone connected now, so it is lacking some features. But this is the best touchscreen that I've come across in a modern car. It is by far the simplest, easiest, cleverest to use. And it looks really good, and it's very driver friendly. Top marks Dacia. So that concludes my review. Oh, hang on a sec, I haven't even driven it yet. All Dacia Sanderos come with 3-cylinder engines. This, I believe, is a 1 litre with 90 horsepower and a 6-speed manual gearbox. And it suits the car like a glove. It's peppy, it's off the line rather quick, it's got enough shove for a car of this size and weight. It's also rather good on the motorway. This is where it really surprised me. Usually cars that have these small engines that are more oriented towards urban life struggle on motorways. However, on the motorway, this car with its 6-speed gearbox will cruise happily at motorway speeds at just above 2,000 revs. Very relaxing, very good. The consumption is also rather good as well. I'm averaging 6.4, which is way over 40 mpg. Something that my wife's AX, that weighs about 30 grams, struggles to achieve. But again, it is a 30-year-old car. If this engine does have a shortcoming, it's the fact that under 2,000 revs, it's completely gutless. But it's a small petrol engine. What do you expect? It's got a start-stop system as well, which is a mixed blessing. Because it's a rental car for me, it's fine. I'm paying for the petrol, so the less it uses, the better. But if I was its owner, I wouldn't be so happy, because start-stop systems have rather a big drawback. As my friend in his Hyundai Kauai, because we're in Portugal, you can't call it a Kona here. His Kauai has start-stop, and he always switches it off because it's annoying. But even if he had it on, it would save him some fuel, and you'd save, consequently, some money. The thing is, because start-stop cars need these special batteries that are rather expensive to replace, any savings in fuel will be lost if, as is very usual, the battery doesn't last that long. For fuck's sake. The suspension is a bit crashy. Now, in conclusion, I think this car, for a modern car at least, is actually really good. I honestly do. It's got all the essential things you need. Of course, it could be just a tad bit roomier and a tad bit more comfortable, and the suspension could be a bit more compliant. There are those drawbacks, but it's economical. It's actually rather nice to drive. I didn't mention this, but the steering is nicely weighted. The gearbox is all right to use. What else do you want? It's practical. It's got lots of nice cubby spaces all around. I will say this for the Dacia, it can take half a dozen eggs in this little cubby here. I like it. Again, for a modern car. I'm not sure if I'd actually buy one. That's a completely different kettle of fish. But as far as rentals go, this is good. It also has another drawback I just remembered, if I may say so, and that's the problem with modern cars. They all look and they also feel the same. As soon as I got in here, I was in mind of the Hyundai Kona that I rented for a week in the Netherlands. It feels exactly the same. Yes, it's very different. It doesn't have a digital dash, for example. It doesn't have an automatic gearbox. It doesn't have an electronic parking brake, blah, blah, blah. The cubby spaces are different, but it feels the same. The damping, the layout, everything, it feels very similar. And if you go back 10 years, if you get a Peugeot 208 and a Citroen C3 of the time, they felt like completely different proposals, and they were from more or less the same manufacturer. Not exactly, one's Citroen, one's Peugeot, but they were both the PSA group and they both shared the same underpinnings, yet they felt completely different. That's odd. Whereas these days, cars from different brands feel like they're the same. Anyway, that's my conclusion. I hope you enjoy this. I'm not very good at reviews, as you probably have already surmised, but I like to do them anyway. It's like sex. Doesn't mean you're good at it, but you like to try. And driving as well, which is very apt. Anyway, that's enough from me. I hope you've made it this far, and if you did, I thank you. Please subscribe, please share, please like, all of that stuff. Thanks very much. I bid you farewell. Try not to crash. It's ideal.